It is 5:45, so I will call to order the May 2nd, 2024 regular meeting of the Hendersonville City Council. We begin our meetings with a silent invocation for people to pray or meditate as they choose, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'll rise, please. If you'll join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. Okay. We have an important item of business to start off with, and that is appointment of a new council member to fill the vacancy. Would anyone like to make a nomination?
I would love to.
I would like to, Madam Mayor, I would like to nominate Melinda Lawrence to the seat vacated by Debbie Roundtree.
Okay. Melinda Lawrence has been nominated to fill the vacancy on City Council. Are there further nominations?
Madam Mayor, I move we close the nominations.
Okay. Nominations are closed. Is there any discussion? Not. Those in favor of appointing Melinda Lawrence to the City Council say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Ayes have it, and she is appointed. But we do have to have an official swearing in. Linda, if you and whoever all you would like to have to join you, come forward.
No, we just need to turn these around.
And did you bring a bottle?
Yeah.
Okay. One here, and who's going to hold?
Who's going to hold the Bible?
All right. Put your left hand on the Bible and raise your right hand. Okay. If you will just repeat after me. I, and state your name,
I, Melinda P. Lawrence,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States,
that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance
that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance
to the state of North Carolina
to the state of North Carolina
and to the constitutional powers and authorities
and to the constitutional powers and authorities
which are or may be established
which are and may be established
for the government thereof,
for the government thereof,
and that I will endeavor to support,
and that I will endeavor to support,
maintain, and defend
maintain, and defend
the Constitution of said state,
the Constitution of said state,
not inconsistent with the Constitution of the United States,
could you repeat?
not
Not
inconsistent,
inconsistent with the Constitution of the United States.
okay, to the best of my knowledge
To the
and
best of
ability.
my knowledge and ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Once more, I, and state your name,
I, Melinda P. Lawrence,
do swear that I will well and truly execute
do swear and will execute
the duties of the office
the duties of the office
of City of Hendersonville City Council member,
of City of Hendersonville Council member,
according to the best of my skill and ability,
according to the best of my skills and ability,
according to law,
according to law.
so help me God.
So help me God.
All right. Congratulations. let all the photographers do their thing. We just have to sign this.
Before you sit down, can we get a photo of you and all the council members?
I'm gonna go and take a photo with them.
Wow, okay. Perfect. All right. 1, 2, 3. I'm gonna take a couple. Thank you. Next.
Super. Thank you. Paparazzi.
Welcome. Let's just go over here. I think we got a flat surface we can sign on. Right here. Okay. The city clerk needs to make copies of this. Join us around.
No.
He was doing so good too.
Would you like to say anything?
I would just like to thank the city council and all the citizens of Hendersonville who entrusted me with this duty. I hope that I will perform to the best of my ability and expect great things out of this city council now that I'm on board.
Okay, thank you. You'll keep us on our toes.
Robbie, you're a little late.
Oh, we begin our meetings with about 15 minutes of public comment time. We have one person signed up in person to speak. Is there anyone online seeking recognition to speak?
Yes, Madam Mayor, one hand is raised.
One hand is raised. All right. We can take about 4 minutes a person then, and we'll start with the person here. Just ask that you give your name and your address for the clerk's record. We appreciate that. Jane DiMartini.
Good evening, Council and Madam Mayor, on this happy night. Glad to be here. My name is Jane DiMartini. I live at 105 Red Oak Drive, Hendersonville. And I am a member of the League of Women Voters of Henderson County. And we are a grassroots, 119-member, nonpartisan political organization. We are committed to two basic things: empowering voters and defending democracy. One way we work toward these goals is to observe public meetings, and we report back to our members and any other interested persons. We want to report what is currently going on with issues that we consider important. I've been the observer for the City Council for a little over 2 years. For the first monthly meeting, we have another member who is the observer for the end of the month meeting. We consider the reports that we make to be helpful in encouraging citizens to become informed and active participants in local government. During this fall's election cycle, we're going to be really busy. We'll be active in Henderson, Polk, and Transylvania counties doing 3 basic things. We will hold many voter registration events, and we've already started doing that. We were at East Henderson High School this week, and we'll be at Mills River Farmers Market on Saturday. We will be holding candidate forums and debates, including the one for City Council. So we hope we will see you there. We encourage you to participate. We will work to foster civil dialogue concerning important community issues. We want our citizens to be truly informed voters. Among the issues that we consider are public education, immigration, health, ways to advocate, and election information such as Vote 411. The League of Women Voters really appreciates the hard work this city council does. And I want to tell you another thing that we especially appreciate is the very respectful way that you always interact with the citizens who want to speak to you. I almost always include that in my report every month because it's not always that way with government organizations. So thank you for what you do.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that. We're glad to have you here. If you could call the person who is online, please.
Lynn, you are unmuted.
Good evening, Lynn Williams, Chadwick Avenue. First, I wanted to start by with a tribute and expression of gratitude for Miss Debbie Roundtree, Councilwoman Debbie Roundtree, for her work on affordable housing, for the work with Back to School Fest, for education, for her focus on Black veterans, and for many community issues, and all of the countless hours that she spent on the tree board working for the tree ordinance and supporting the tree board through many challenges. So I just wanted to once again say thank you to Miss Roundtree for all of that hard work. I also wanted to speak out or up about the quote surveillance program that was presented at the last city council meeting. I personally am a bit concerned about having 7 cameras on Main Street. I do believe in the importance of public safety, but I also believe in the right to privacy. And hearing Chief Myhan speak about how he could type in looking for a suspect with a red shirt and blue pants, to me concerns me because of the disparities when it comes to AI, facial recognition, and bias and discrimination. And so I'm concerned about that surveillance system, where those cameras will be, who will watch them, how the public would have access to them. These are all considerations. And I know Councilwoman Roundtree, one of the main challenges she had was receiving death threats, people coming to her house, and she wasn't really able to get the security and protection from the Hendersonville Police Department. So this was a concern. And then lastly, it being Drinking Water Week, I did want to ask that we do test and limit PFAS, and also that we lower the level of lead in our water by replacing the 200,000 pounds of lead that was used to seal the pipes from South Mills River to here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. All right. We're able now to move on to our agenda. Is there anything one would like to have added to or removed from this evening's agenda?
Mayor Buck, I believe that we should have comment back about inaction, the accusation that there was inaction.
Okay.
If we could go in and get in depth on what was done there.
Mayor Vogt, members of the council, I will be happy to share that, and if I need to add any details, I can do that or ask Chief Myhan. But I will assure the public and the folks in the audience that the police department did take the death threats, or any threat really, any threat against Councilmember Roundtree or any other citizen. We take it very seriously and investigate it within what the law will allow us to do. I will say we did check, get information from phone records, reviewed the phone records. Our law enforcement, our detectives went through to check and see where the numbers were located, which is within their power. And at this time, we found no legitimate threat and found that the phone numbers were not, again, were no threat. So it felt like a number of them may have been hang-ups simply from telemarketers and things like that. So I want the public to know and the community to know that we took those threats very seriously, and as we would do with any citizen, and looked into them. So just want to clarify that. I hope that satisfies what the council needs from us.
I mean, that does cover it. On if there's anybody that has detailed questions about what was done, I'm sure we could provide more of that, but not for 1 second did we dismiss that, not take it seriously, or in any way want to put the councilwoman at risk. Not one bit. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right, consideration of the agenda, either adding or deleting, or a motion to approve.
Madam Mayor, I move that City Council approve the agenda as presented.
Is there any discussion? Not those in favor of the agenda as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. Ayes have it, we have our agenda. Consent agenda, is there anything anyone would like to have moved from the consent agenda to the regular agenda so it can be discussed? Or if not, a motion to approve?
Madam Mayor, I move City Council approve the consent agenda as presented.
Is there any discussion? Not those in favor of approving the consent agenda as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. Ayes have it. That took care of a whole page full of stuff. But we have a lot of presentations. This is a very busy month for recognitions of organizations and of city employees. Around here. First is a proclamation for Historic Preservation Month. Oh, thank you. I know Crystal is here. Is anyone else from the Historic Preservation? Okay, whoever would like to come forward and accept this, come on up. You can both come up. You don't have to. Right in the center here. Okay, this is a proclamation for National Historic Preservation Month. Whereas historic preservation is an effective tool for managing growth, revitalizing neighborhoods, fostering local pride, and maintaining community character while enhancing livability. And whereas the historic houses and buildings of Hendersonville help make our city unique and provide links with the aspirations and attainments of the city's pioneers and their descendants. And whereas these fine examples of 19th and 20th century buildings contribute to an appreciation of our heritage. And whereas historic preservation is relevant for communities across the nation, both urban and rural, and for Americans of all ages, all walks of life, and all ethnic backgrounds. And whereas it's important to celebrate the role of history in our lives and the contributions made by dedicated individuals in helping to preserve the tangible aspects of the heritage that has shaped us as a people. And whereas Historic Preservation Month can instill awareness of the local historically significant buildings and landmarks to the residents of Hendersonville and surrounding communities. Now, therefore, I, Barbara Volk, Mayor of the City of Hendersonville, North Carolina, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby acknowledge May to be Historic Preservation Month in the City of Hendersonville, and call upon our fellow citizens to recognize and participate in this special observance. Our work to protect our community heritage proves that in Hendersonville we are one team, one goal. Congratulations. And all here wants to hold that. Okay, next it's Drinking Water Week. Who's getting this one? All right. Whoever. All right, okay. So whereas water is our most valuable natural resource, and whereas drinking water serves a vital role in daily life, serving an essential purpose to health, hydration, and hygiene needs for the quality of life our citizens enjoy. And whereas tap water delivers public health protection, fire protection, support for our economy, and the quality of life we enjoy. And whereas the hard work performed by the entire water sector, designing capital projects, operators ensuring the safety and quality of drinking water, or a member of a pipe crew maintaining the infrastructure communities rely on to transport high-quality drinking water from its source to consumers' taps. And whereas the coronavirus pandemic has shown a light on the importance of drinking water for health, hydration, and hygiene needs. And whereas we are all stewards of the water infrastructure upon which current and future generations depend. And whereas the citizens of our city are called upon to help protect our source waters from pollution, practice water conservation, and get involved with their water by familiarizing themselves with it. Now, therefore, be it resolved that by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Hendersonville, I do hereby proclaim May 5th to 11th, 2024 as Drinking Water Week. Here we go. All right. You want to say anything? Add anything to that? No? Okay. Next, we have a proclamation for National Police Week. And who's getting? Everyone can come up.
I think James make
Right. Okay. Good. Glad to have so many of you here. Whereas police officers around the nation understand the tremendous responsibility bestowed upon them in protecting the freedom and liberty of all citizens. And whereas the men and women of the Hendersonville Police Department are dedicated to protecting and treating all city residents and visitors with respect and dignity against deception, violence, and disorder. And whereas the residents and visitors of the city of Hendersonville recognize the dangers of the law enforcement profession and understand the difficulties in performing the duties and responsibilities of a law enforcement officer in the state of North Carolina. And whereas more than 800,000 law enforcement officers serve communities across the United States, including the 47 sworn police officers of the Hendersonville Police Department. And whereas, while officers are ever vigilant, 118 police officers died in the line of duty in 2023, amounting to over 24,000 line of duty deaths since the first death was recorded in 1786. Now, therefore, I, Barbara Volk, Mayor of the City of Hendersonville, and City Council members, do hereby proclaim May 12th to May 18th, 2024, as National Police Week in the City of Hendersonville, and honor the service of all law enforcement officers and the sacrifices of the men and women killed in the line of duty in 2023, while safeguarding our communities and defending our democracy, and call upon all people to show support to the law enforcement officers who devote themselves to delivering exceptional service to this community and in communities across the nation. And this is most appropriate considering the situation in Charlotte just a few days ago. We appreciate all that you do every day going out there. So, congratulations.
No, sir.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
thank you.
Madam Mayor? Over here.
Yeah.
I would like for us to have a moment of silence for all of our fallen police officers, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, next we have Public Service Recognition Week. And who's doing this one?
So all the public service folks in the room, Tom, Brent, Adam, all you folks part of the public services. Come on, Mike. Brent, Tim, Andy.
You can like lay down.
All right. Whereas Americans are served every single day by public servants at the federal, state, county, and city levels. And whereas the public employees of the city of Hendersonville are committed to exhibiting the highest standards of professional excellence, creativity, skill, and customer service. And whereas, in often difficult circumstances, our civil servants work to protect and improve the quality of life for our residents, businesses, and visitors. And whereas the efficiency of government relies on public employees who provide services in the quality and quantity required and expected by the public. And whereas the city of Hendersonville recognizes the generous contributions of time and talents by public employees, the importance of the services they render. And whereas Public Service Recognition Week has been celebrated the first week of May since 1985 to honor those who serve our nation as federal, state, county, and local government employees. Now, therefore, I, Barbara Volk, Mayor of the City of Hendersonville, North Carolina, hereby proclaim May 5th to 11th, 2024 as Public Service Recognition Week and encourage all citizens to join in appreciation of our public employees, past and present, who by their faithful and loyal devotion to their responsibilities have rendered a dedicated service to their communities. Thank you all. All right, thank you. Okay. What else gets to do a little work here?
Okay, Miss Justice, I think you're up.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and City Council. I come before you tonight to recognize our Communications Coordinator, Brandy Heatherly. Thank you. Brandy represented the city at the North Carolina City-County Communicators Conference last month. NC3C is a professional organization that recognizes our state PIOs. And at each conference, they do an excellence in communications
PIO.
Public Information Officer. Thank you. At that conference, they do an Excellence in Communications Award. And this year, Brandy was recognized in the category of Best Use of Humor. And these awards are voted on out-of-state assessors. And as you know, we have many ways of communicating with our public, including social media channels. It's a great way to connect with people who may not be as plugged in with traditional ways of communicating for our local government. And the post that Brandy developed was a lighthearted April Fool's post for our Hendersonville Fire Department, showing them using innovative firefighting techniques that involved pool noodles. So here's a couple photos of the post. You know, we as communicators oftentimes are communicating very serious, critical, and sometimes heartbreaking information. And it's a wonderful way for us to sometimes have a lighthearted, relatable type of post like that to help build our engagement and connect with people on another level. So congratulations, Brandy Heatherly, on this major award.
Yeah.
You know how it goes. You go up there. You're not taking the picture this time. All right, 3, 2, 1. Mm-hmm.
Congratulations. Now, Mr. Polly has a recognition.
All right, up the next one, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. Tonight, I am happy and have the privilege to honor Allison Justice for her completion of the Municipal County Administration course offered by the UNC School of Government. This course has been around since 1954 and has over 3,700 alumni, of which we have probably, Adam, Jennifer, Tom, Lou, John, myself, and Jill, I think, in the room. Maybe have you done it, Angie? No. We've got a lot in the room here with us tonight, and it's a long commitment, the first of a kind of 3-course leadership program through the School of Government. So this is the first. You still got 2 more to go now, Allison. But this was a 7-month, once-a-week commitment that Allison traveled to UNC for, and we just appreciate her commitment to the city and the citizens of Hendersonville. So thank you, Allison.
Thank you.
Right. Next, we have our quarterly MVP recipients.
Yes, so it's my pleasure to recognize our teammates who've gone above and beyond the call of duty and have provided excellent service inside and outside the organization. So the first group I'd like to call up and ask that Brandy Heatherly and Allison Justice join me, Andy Brogdon and Tom Wooten, and Steve Alverson and Jennifer Harrell, please join me up here. We are recognizing, so I'm asking Brandy and Andy and Steve to come up. They were being recognized, but also the department heads to come and stand with them because it's important, I think, that we recognize our team. And so Andy and Steve and Brandy put together a training safety video for our fleet vehicles. And so in an effort to have employees take responsibility for their fleet vehicles and discover any safety hazards, Steve Alverson, Safety and Risk Manager, enlisted Andy Brogdon, Fleet Manager, shoot a video that demonstrates a complete vehicle check. Brandy Heatherly, Communications Coordinator, did the filming and editing, and it was sent out to all employees to watch. It was a great job, not only for our vehicles, but also your own personal vehicles. So it was great information from a safety perspective, and it's about taking care of our equipment and taking care of each other. So I want to congratulate Brandy, Andy, and Steve Alverson for a job well done.
There you go. Pictures in there?
Thank you, Matt. I didn't realize I was taking the photographer out of the.
Both photographers.
Yes, both of them. So, secondly, I'd like to invite Brandon Roberts and Joel Hart and Brendan Shanahan, their department head director for engineering, to come forward. So, Brandon's here. Great. So, Brandon and Joel, on March the 25th, water customers on Highland Lake Road were left unexpectedly without water, including a dermatologist and their patients. Joel and Brandon met with the dermatologist team to determine the course of action that would be most helpful to the dermatologist and patients, then communicated with work crews to complete their work accordingly. In the meantime, seeing that the practice was in need of water, Joel and Brandon took the initiative to purchase and deliver 10 gallons of water to that office. So, Joel and Brandon, thank you for going above and beyond and doing a job well done. Okay, would like for if Adam Stewart will join his team members here. Recognize Richard Ledford, Brian McCall, Dylan Ward, Stephen Galloway, Dawson Heatherly, J.R. Blackwell, Morgan Osteen, Clarence Gilbert, and Tim Sexton. So Tim may be the only one that is in the room, but Tim represents them all. So above and beyond, right?
Okay.
During a site visit, and Mike Huffman was not nominated, but he should probably get up here. Was he? He located. So yeah. So Michael. Come on. So during a site visit, Mike Huffman discovered a sewer service lateral that had broken, was discharging into a stream. These gentlemen were out there the next morning to reconnect the sewer lateral to a nearby manhole and eliminate the discharge to the creek. The work would typically be done by a private plumber, but because it was on the customer side of the cleanup, however, Tim and his team worked with the property owner to get the problem resolved quickly at no cost to the customer. They also relocated the sewer service away from the stream so that we could be more easily restore the stream bank in the future and hopefully avoid other leaks into the stream. So I want to thank Tim and his team and Mike for finding it. Appreciate a job well done.
Okay.
So Mike, don't go too far. I'll ask Brendan Shanahan to come and make a presentation to Mike.
Let's see. Sorry. Okay. Mike Huffman, I think fresh off of a Kids in the Creek day today and yesterday, and obviously being very active in keeping his eyes on our stormwater infrastructure. And after 8 years dedicated to the city of Hendersonville stormwater resources, has expanded his area of expertise by becoming a certified floodplain manager. The Association of State Floodplain Managers provides this certification program to establish a level of competence in the nation's floodplain managers. And I think in this room we have at least 3 certified floodplain managers. Susan here as well. Having achieved this certification, Mike has been sworn in as the City of Hendersonville's floodplain manager, in addition to the many other roles which he serves the community. And we're proud of the work that you've done, and look forward to the positive contribution that's to come. So thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Brendan. Appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you all for everything you do for the city. Next, we have a presentation for us from Hands On Children's Museum. Joseph Knight.
Good evening, honorable members of the Hendersonville City Council. My name is Joseph Knight, and I have the great privilege of serving as the director and CEO of Hands On Children's Museum. This evening, I stand before you to express sincere thanks and appreciation for your support of Hands On Children's Museum and the People's Museum and Walk of Fame project. As you know, this project is of great cultural and historical significance to our community as we strive to make our city an even better place to live, work, and play. In 2021, the Hendersonville City Council made a significant commitment to support diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility by unanimously agreeing to provide a 5-year financial investment to Hands On to develop, maintain, and operate the People's Museum Gallery and the Henderson County Walk of Fame, located within Hands On Children's Museum. Thanks to the generous support of the city, Hands On successfully opened the People's Museum and Walk of Fame in 2022, and this unique educational and cultural resource has served thousands of children and adults throughout Henderson County and beyond. In fact, during the 2023 calendar year, over 60,000 people experienced the People's Museum and Hands On Children's Museum, 42% of which were Hendersonville and Henderson County residents. During the 2023-2024 fiscal year, we facilitated a variety of free learning experiences that celebrated diversity, history, and culture. Thanks to support from the city, the museum was able to offer a variety of free programs to the community to enhance the exhibit experiences within the People's Museum. These activities include, but are not limited to, a celebration of Black History Month, which included a children's art display and African drumming workshop. We had the great privilege of hosting our first ever field trip for high school students, welcoming over 60 11th and 12th graders from Hendersonville High School to visit the museum as part of their civics and geography studies. We celebrated Juneteenth with local artist Miss Diamond Cash, who led craft activities, and Miss Deborah, who introduced children to various forms of African music. We also had the privilege of welcoming Mr. Ronnie Pepper to the museum, who provided an incredible African storytelling experience to our visitors. In the fall, we opened our Earth, Sun, and Universe traveling exhibition within the People's Museum. This exhibit was developed in collaboration with NASA and was designed to teach older youth and adults about the space sciences, in addition to raising awareness of NASA's hidden figures, women of color who made great historical contribution to the space sciences. And we also celebrated Kwanzaa with the lighting of the Kinara as visitors learned about the 7 principles of Kwanzaa. As we enter the 4th year of our grant funding agreement, I respectfully request the Hendersonville City Council to consider approving annual funding total $42,000 as indicated in our grant agreement to sustain the People's Museum and Walk of Fame project. In addition to supporting the operating costs for monthly lease for the People's Museum Walk of Fame, city funding also is used to leverage other funding sources to support the museum. City funding to Hands On also helps promote confidence and credibility with other public and private funding sources, resulting in improved fiscal sustainability. The public-private partnership between Hands On and the city has been and continues to be a key part of our success. As we enter the new fiscal year, I'm pleased to share that we'll be adding a new display to our exhibits collection within the People's Museum and Walk of Fame. Hands-On received a very special artifact from a local family that is over 100 years old that visually tells the unique story of the Underground Railroad. And we look forward to officially unveiling this new and local historical display within the next month. Museums are always growing and evolving to better meet the needs of their community. And we warmly welcome our community to contact us anytime should they have any suggestion for oral histories or artifacts that could be displayed within the People's Museum and Walk of Fame. On behalf of the children we serve, I thank you for your continued support of Hands-On Children's Museum. I understand that the council has a major fiduciary decisions to make in preparation for the upcoming fiscal year. And I thank you for your investment into supporting initiatives like the People's Museum that makes our city a great, diverse, inclusive, and welcoming place for all. Again, I sincerely thank you for your consideration of supporting the 4th year of our funding agreement for the People's Museum, and for your leadership and continued support that enables Hands-On to grow and thrive within this great community. So thank you for your time, and happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, appreciate your being here. Anyone have any questions or comments? No? Okay.
Thank you
Thanks
very
for
much.
coming and giving us an update.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we have 2 public hearings this evening. The first is a rezoning to a conditional zoning district regarding Osceola Inn adaptive reuse.
That's correct. Good evening, City Council, Madam Mayor. It's good to see you all. The first public hearing we have is for a CZD. The request from Fiona McCauley is to rezone from R15 medium density to R15 medium density conditional zoning district. So the base zoning will stay the same. This is for 3.75 acres that houses the historic Osceola Lake Inn. And the classification, the reason why it is going to a CZD is to attain a permitted use that's listed as adaptive reuse, which is essentially reusing an existing building for a use that's not permitted within the zoning district, in the base zoning district. They are proposing to reuse the inn for 20 guest rooms, an event center, a cafe, and then on the additional wings, having multifamily units. And then the future land use designation, which we'll get into further, is medium intensity neighborhood. So looking at some photos here, the upper left is the side of the historic inn, looking to the east. And the upper right is from the east side looking back west, and you can see the additions of these wings that were added on to this property in the 50s or 60s. The bottom left photo is the east-facing side from an interior courtyard, and then the bottom right is the outside of one of those wings where there's some existing parking, and then also you can see some of the deterioration that's occurred on the building. Taking a look at the site plan, it shows the reuse of these existing structures and the existing parking. As I mentioned, to accommodate a 20 guest room inn and event space and conference space. All of that would be in the original structure, and then 26 multifamily units that would be in the wings that were later added on to the property. And just to distinguish, these are the wings on either side, and then this is the original structure. In total, the use would require 53 parking spaces per the zoning ordinance. There are 42 existing parking spaces. According to the site plan, there's an additional space for a maximum of 24 additional parking spaces that could accommodate these uses, and they would add the parking as needed. But they would have to at least add 11 to meet that minimum parking requirement per the zoning ordinance. The required landscaping that is triggered to bring the site into compliance is intended to be satisfied using the tree credits with the existing trees on the site. The applicant is proposing to remove all the Bradford pears on the property and work with the tree board to determine the most suitable replacement plantings. The site plan was reviewed by the DRC, the Development Review Committee. The details are in the staff report, but there were just only minimal comments, no major comments, and there were no conditions proposed by staff or the applicant. A neighborhood compatibility meeting was held on August 31st, so last fall. There was 10 people in the room, 10 people online. There were some questions about how the property is going to be used, what some of the impacts would be, what the goals were of the applicant. But overall, the sentiments were positive, and it was received well. Taking a look at the current land use and zoning map, the subject property is currently zoned R15 in the city's ETJ. It is located 0.1 miles from the city's corporate limits and 0.1 miles from the Valley Hill Fire Department, which is a parcel that's actually within the jurisdiction of Laurel Park. The area around the subject property is dominated by R15 zoning, with one parcel that is zoned C4 on Willow Road. Uses in the surrounding neighborhood are predominantly single-family residential with some agriculture, recreation, small commercial, and civic uses, all within the vicinity. The floodplain of Tony's Creek, Osceola Lake, Shepherd Creek is in proximity to the subject property. The subject property is sited on high ground above the lake. The historic inn, the lake, and the lake's dam are all significant landmarks in this area. According to the city's 2030 comprehensive plan, the subject property is designated as medium intensity neighborhood. The 2030 future land use map indicates that the sector of the city where the subject property is located as an overwhelming preponderance of medium intensity neighborhood, with only a few exceptions. One of those exceptions is the designation of natural resource and agriculture, which follows the Osceola Lake, the creeks which feed it and discharge from it, and the Johnson Farm to the east of the subject property. The other exception is the small area designated as high-intensity neighborhood on Willow Road. So taking a look at our criteria for considering a rezoning, the first is comprehensive plan consistency. This project is actually found to be inconsistent with the recommended land uses of the medium intensity neighborhood. However, the site is designated as a preservation and enhancement area on the growth management map. The compatible infill development, as well as a provision of mix of land uses, is supported by the population and housing chapter of the comp plan. There are additional strategies in the population and housing chapter, which include facilitate the modernization of smaller, outdated units while preserving neighborhood character in order to maintain the viability of older neighborhoods, and allow housing arrangements in existing new neighborhoods that provide affordable and/or multi-generational housing alternatives in single-family neighborhoods. Also encourage mixed land use patterns. There were no relevant goals or strategies for the natural resources. The Cultural and Historic Resources chapter had a very key strategy, which CR-1.5 encouraged rehabilitation of historic properties that modernizes amenities and layouts without compromising historic integrity. The remaining chapters had minor recommendations or no recommendations. The second criteria for considering a rezoning is compatibility. In this case, the inn has been a defining landmark for the area since before the surrounding neighborhood existed. Compatibility will be ensured through reinvestment and rehabilitation of the historic landmark. The third criteria considered is changed conditions. In this case, the structure is in great need of repair. The revenue generating land uses that are proposed are needed to fund the reinvestment that is needed to preserve this historic structure. The fourth criteria is for public interest. which for this project would include the preservation of this cultural asset for the community, the addition of small-scale units for needed housing, and appropriately scaled economic development in this area of the city. The fifth criteria considered is public facilities. The subject property is served by city water and is proposed to connect to sewer. If annexed, the property would be served by all city services. Otherwise, the Valley Hill Fire Department and the Sheriff's Office would serve this location. All roads in the area are NCDOT or private drives and designated as local streets with the exception of Willow Road, which is a minor thoroughfare. The sixth criteria is effect on natural environment. The applicant proposes to remove the non-invasive Bradford pears, and they intend to utilize tree credits for the trees that are being preserved. The planning board recommended approval of this, and we'll get into the motion that was made, but it was unanimous, 7-0. The comprehensive plan consistency statement, I mentioned that it was found inconsistent with the medium intensity neighborhood, but it was found to be consistent with the strategy CR-1.5. And so we've a little bit different than structure of the motion than is typically found. We have both a consistency and an inconsistency. And then to address the inconsistency, there was a recommendation made by the planning board to redesignate the parcel in the future land use map to Neighborhood Activity Center. And so that was the motion that planning board provided, and then they also supported it with the rationale for approval as shown on the screen. And then we also have some rationale for denial that you can consider, and happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, any questions, Mr. Manley?
Matt, one quick question.
Yes.
At this point, we do not have a petition for annexation. That would just be in the future if sewer was needed in a connection. That's where we are with that. I mean, it's just.
And the applicant may be able to speak further to their needs.
Just want to clarify, at this point, we don't have a petition.
There is no
but
annexation.
It would only be required with sewer connection in the future. And then at that point, we would evaluate the level of service that we could provide, considering that this would be a satellite annexation and whether it made sense related to other services in the area.
That's correct.
Fair. Thank you.
It is in the ETJ, so we can assign zoning without having to address that.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? Okay, is the applicant here and would like to speak? He would. Yeah, you need to come to the microphone, sorry.
You do such a great job.
Name and address.
Fiona Macaulay, 159 Osceola Road, the subject property. Matthew did such a great job of saying, I think, everything that needs to be said, but I am happy to answer any questions that you may have as well. So if anyone has any other issues or concerns.
I just want you to stand there and talk a little bit.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Okay,
Yeah.
any questions?
I was just told to say no worries, mate. There you go.
One more time.
No worries.
All right,
Take much, does it?
thank you. Okay, Madam Clerk, has this public hearing been advertised in accordance with general statutes?
Yes, Mayor, it has.
Okay, we'll open this public hearing. Did anyone present sign up to speak? Is there anyone online seeking recognition to speak?
Yes, Madam Mayor, one hand is raised.
Okay, you could call for that person.
Ken Fitch, you are unmuted.
Ken Fitch, 1046 Patton Street. This project arrives as one of those rare events where a project has considerable neighborhood support. The applicant has been solicitous and interactive with the neighbors for suggestions, and it has held open house events, all with the purpose to achieve a restoration of the historic building and its historic function that is compatible with and enhances the community in which it would be an anchoring property. and as you've seen, with considerable charm. Clearly, the restoration of the historic inn would further enhance the historic profile of the city and the surrounding area. In negotiating the juxtapositions of the zoning categories, criteria, consistencies, and designations as Matt has laid out before you, the project may rise as inconsistent with the single-family housing nearby. But from a historic perspective, it is the single-family homes that are inconsistent with the historic character of the area. But to achieve some compliance with current rezoning standards and designations, it will be designated as a neighborhood activity center. And that is clearly consistent with its historic role as a center of activity in the neighborhood. It is especially appropriate that in this historic preservation month, you may imminently approve a project that preserves a unique historic property and restores its historic use. And at the same time, renders the more recent lodges adaptable for much coveted and needed housing opportunities. As mentioned by neighbors, there is some concern about parking and traffic, and one hopes that there will be remedies for that in the future. With their decisive action tonight, you will assist in the rescue of a unique historic property in danger of disappearance with an act of reinvigoration of our brand and identity as Historic Hendersonville. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fitch. Is there anyone else seeking recognition? No?
No, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Last call, anyone here? Right, we'll close that public hearing. Council, discussion or a motion?
Oh, go for it. This is the longest motion in the world.
Well, you ready to jump right?
Get it, Melinda.
Madam Mayor, I move City Council adopt an ordinance amending the official zoning map of the city of Hendersonville, changing the zoning designation of the subject property, PN 9568-31-5964, from R-15 medium density residential to R-15 CZD medium density residential conditional zoning district based on the site plan and list of conditions submitted by and agreed to by the applicant dated February the 5th, 2024, and presented at this meeting is subject to the following. 1, the development shall be consistent with the site plan, including the list of applicable conditions contained therein and the following permitted use. 1, adaptive reuse including A, hotel with 20 guest room, event and conference space, cafe. B, residential multifamily, 26-1 and 2 bedroom units. The petition is found to be consistent with the City of Hendersonville 2030 Comprehensive Plan based on the information from the staff analysis and because the adaptive reuse of a historic structure aligns with strategies in the 2030 Comprehensive Plan, including the strategy CR-15
More.
You're not through.
on the back.
See, you didn't know you signed up for.
The bottom. Oh, yeah.
All that, yeah.
Oh, furthermore, we find the petition to be inconsistent with the future land use map on the following. The medium intensity neighborhood future land use designation does not recommend any commercial uses or multifamily uses on local street. 4, therefore, we recommend designating the future land use of the parcel as neighborhood activity center with multifamily, residential, pedestrian amenities, plazas, outdoor seating, etc., and mixed use or secondary recommended land use. 6, we find this petition to be reasonable and in the public interest based on the information from the staff analysis, public hearing, and because 1, the proposed use satisfies the supplementary standards for adaptive reuse. 2, the proposed use as a hotel aligns with the original use of the property. 3, the historic structure and its use as an end predate the surrounding single-family land uses. 4, the scale of the proposed reuse will not negatively impact the surrounding neighborhood. 5, the proposed rezoning will allow for preservation of the historic structure into which reinvestment is greatly needed.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? If not, those in favor of the rezoning to conditional use district, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. Ayes have it. Motion carries, and we look forward to seeing the results. Thank you.
Thank you for doing this. This place has been needing some love for a while. So thank you.
Yes.
Right.
I guess being on the Board of Adjustment paid off.
Okay, we have another rezoning, a standard rezoning at Hope Creek and Powell Street. Mr. Manley again.
Yes. As you mentioned, this is a standard rezoning. It's for 2 parcels totaling 4.68 acres, located in the Barker Heights neighborhood, adjacent to floodplain that feeds into Jackson Park down there. The current zoning is R15, medium density. The proposed zoning is R6, high density residential, and the future land use designation is high intensity neighborhood. The subject property is currently located in the ETJ and is zoned R15. The property includes a 5-unit multifamily structure, 2 single-family homes, and an ADU. While the properties throughout the surrounding area are primarily zoned R15 and are comprised of single-family homes, there is a PRD CZD just adjacent to the rear, which is the site of the Mountain Community School. And there's also a 32-unit multifamily apartment complex right here named Parkview Apartments. That's located just 1 parcel to the west. And that apartment complex has a density of 12 units per acre. Powell Street, which the subject property fronts, is classified as a secondary route and is maintained by NCDOT. It is a local street in the city's comp plan. And then Hope Creek is a private drive. And a tributary of King Creek runs along the rear property line of the subject parcels. Approximately 1.89 acres of the site is in the 100-year floodplain. Looking at a comparison between the R15 and R6 in terms of the uses, you can see that they are close to identical. The differences are highlighted with cemeteries are a special use in R15. They are not permitted in R6. A neighborhood community center is added to the list of permitted uses that are found in R6, is not allowed in R15. And residential care facilities are added as a special use under R6 and not permitted under R15. Comparing the dimensional standards, you can see that the differences lie in the minimum lot sizes that are required. The minimum lot width would be reduced from 85 to 50. The setbacks would be reduced, with the front being a significant, reducing it from 30 feet under R15 to 20 feet under R6. Height limits are the same. So essentially, both single-family and two-family zoning districts with a difference in minimum lot size and setbacks. Taking a look at the site from Powell Street, upper left, looking back towards the site in the background, you can see the 5-unit apartments that are on the left and an ADU on the right. In the upper right picture, you see the 2 single-family homes that are closer to the street, that front Powell Street. Bottom left is a picture of the ADU. You can see the floodplain in the background, and the creek is shown on the bottom right. That runs right up along the property boundary, and then it's floodplain behind there. I saw, several woodpeckers and some different wildlife out there, riparian type of habitat that was very prominent out the back of the property there.
Well, that's not going to be disturbed by anything, is it?
So this rezoning does not do any type of development approval. And so there is no development being considered, just the rights that are granted or that are permitted under R15 would then shift to all the rights that are permitted under R6.
I guess what I'm asking too then, if it were to be developed,
Yeah, if it were to be developed, our floodplain, our natural resource protection standards in the zoning code and our floodplain prevention ordinance, which is in the city code, would both go into effect to prevent or limit development in the floodplain. There is no floodway on this property, but there is some floodplain, so they'd have to meet those standards, which would limit future development. And then there are also the stream buffer protections.
that's where I was really going, the stream buffer there
Would
is,
push things away from,
push it back some.
from that water in particular. from
That's
the
what I was
top
getting at.
50 feet. Taking a look at the city's future land use map, it designates the subject property as high-intensity neighborhood. Parcels adjacent to the south are also designated high-intensity neighborhood. Properties to the north are designated as natural resource agriculture and include Jackson Park and the King Creek / Bat Fork floodplain. Other nearby future land use designations include Neighborhood Activity Center along Spartanburg Highway and Business Center at the Hendersonville Airport. So getting into our criteria that we consider, taking a look at the first one, which is comprehensive plan consistency. In this case, the proposed zoning of R6 is consistent with the recommended land uses and development guidelines for high-intensity neighborhood. Of particular note is the change in density from 3.75 under R15 to 8.5, which is what would be allowed in a minor planned residential development under R6. That 8.5 aligns with strategy LU-7.4, which calls for 8 or more units per acre. It should be highlighted that the R6 zoning would in fact bring the zoning for these parcels into alignment with the comp plan, whereas the R15 is actually inconsistent with the designation, the future land use designation. So this is bringing it into alignment, or would. It should also be noted that the subject property contains a floodplain, which is designated natural resource and agriculture. This portion of the property is subject to our floodplain protection standards. The land use and development chapter goes on to encourage infill development and discourages development in areas needed for protection of natural and agricultural resources. The natural resources chapter mirrors this by discouraging development in the floodplain and along streams, and encourages cluster development that allows for a return on investment while preserving sensitive areas. And the population and housing chapter also promotes infill development and encourages a mix of land uses and housing types. The cultural and historic resources, community facilities, transportation and circulation, and water resources chapters only had minor recommendations. The second criteria considered is compatibility. It should be noted that there is that a 32-unit apartment complex is just one parcel away. It should also be noted that the subject property backs up to Jackson Park and Bat Fork floodplain areas. This limits the impact of any incompatibilities that future development of the subject property may have due to there being a minimal amount of affected neighbors. The third criteria is change conditions. The proposed rezoning offers the opportunity to better utilize land as a way of addressing the housing shortage in our community. The fourth criteria, public interest, the additional density would allow for additional housing in a central location where residents can easily access recreation, shopping, and employment opportunities. In terms of public facilities, the site would be served by city services. And for natural effect on natural environment, in this case, it is a standard rezoning, as was mentioned, so there is no proposed development being considered. However, this is a tributary of King Creek, so that would make it subject to the zoning code stream buffer protections, as was mentioned earlier. And additionally, the 1.89 acres on the site would be subject to the natural resource protection standards and flood damage prevention ordinance. Just wanted to cover that again. And the planning board recommended this unanimously, the rezoning 7-0, and they put forth the comprehensive plan consistency statement shown on the screen and the rationale for approval listed here as well. And then staff has a draft denial statement for your consideration, and I'll open it up for any questions.
Any questions? Okay. Does the applicant wish to speak? No. No, okay. Madam Clerk, has this public hearing been advertised in accordance with general statutes?
Yes, Mayor, it has.
We will open this public hearing. Does anyone here wish to comment on this rezoning application? Is there anyone online wishing to comment?
Madam Mayor, we have 2 hands raised.
Okay, if you could call for those, please.
Lynn, you are unmuted.
Good evening, Lynn Williams, Chadwick Avenue. I understand it's all already been pretty much approved, and there are going to be protections on the stream, so I do appreciate that. I just kind of wanted to point out the obvious that when you put more impervious surfaces directly next to the floodplain, it's going to increase the rate of flow of the flooding, and it's right there at the bowl of our entire county where it catches water. So that is a concern. And I also just wanted to point out that Jackson Park is designated as a significant wildlife area or something along those lines. And then across from this property, abutting New Hope Road, there's the natural heritage area with the protected endangered species and all of that. So things to look out for. It's a very sensitive area there. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Ken Fitch, you are unmuted.
Ken Fitch, 1046 Patton Street. The project arrives as a straightforward request that would effectively allow greater density for development. Understandably, in compliance with the process, no specific project is identified. But we do recognize that the major challenge for the applicant would be the reality that a portion of the property is within the 100-year floodplain and perhaps even a 500-year floodplain, if such a thing were to be designated there. And all of this would impact and limited what the applicant could actually do on the property. And we must acknowledge that there is extensive and increasingly frequent severe flooding in the adjacent stream network, with multi-agency and entity involvement to address the issues, including Conserving Carolina that has a conservation area nearby. And in the past, there have been floating ideas for adjustments to the entire network. So the future conditions of the stream network here are uncertain. And the applicant should consult with various entities before embarking on a project. And one would hope that these various entities would give advice and assessment as to what is really possible to do on this site. Of course, inevitably, we might turn to Mike Huffman with his newly elevated status to work out his miracles. But even Mike Huffman recognizes that we must respect the miracle of the forces of nature and adjust our actions and response accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fitch. Anyone else?
No, Madam Mayor.
All right. Then we will close that public hearing. Council discussion or a motion?
I'm so glad you're here.
Melinda. Melinda does. Making us look bad.
I move City Council adopt an ordinance amending the official zoning map of the city of Hendersonville, changing the zoning designation of the subject property, pins number 9578-36-6473, 9578-36-8361, from R15 medium density residential to R-6 high density residential based on the following. The petition is found to be consistent with the City of Hendersonville 20 30 comprehensive plan based on the information from the staff analysis, and because the goals and strategies of LU-7, high-intensity neighborhood calls for primary recommended land uses which aligns with the proposed R-6 zoning. 2, furthermore, we find this petition to be reasonable and in the public interest based on the information from the staff analysis, public hearing, and because 1, R-6 zoning aligns with and maintains the primary single-family character of the neighborhood. 2, R-6 zoning allows for a more efficient use of land. 3, R6 zoning is less dense than some existing land uses in proximity of the subject property.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? If not, those in favor of this standard rezoning say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Ayes have it, motion carries, and that is rezoned. Thank you. We have no unfinished business, so we'll move on to new business. Approval of Sustainability Strategic Plan.
As Caitlin's coming up, I want to thank her. She's attending a conference in Charlotte, and so she's driving back and forth to be at the meeting tonight. So, Caitlin, thank you for doing that for us. Thank you.
Lots of mileage. Madam Mayor, members of City Council, you may recall I presented on the plan last month. So tonight it's kind of up for your vote and adoption. I'm happy to answer any questions or comments or feedback you may have on the plan. I also can pull up a copy of the plan if you want to dig into any more areas in more detail.
Anyone have any questions, comments?
Thank you, Caitlin, for hitting the ground running on this project because it was something that the ESB had started, and you picked it right up. And I'm very impressed with the amount of knowledge that's in the report and how comprehensive it is, and it outlines clear goals for the city to check off moving forward, which is not always the case with some of the plans that we put together. And I like that there's also a couple in there that we're probably already working on, so we can just check some stuff off right away. I'm one of those people that does something and then I put it on my list to check it off, so that works out perfect for me. But you just did a really good job on this, and I like that it captured so many different facets of the community and brought in some things that the community members can do, even though it's more geared towards city operations. So thank you.
I appreciate that. And I know Virginia is one of our board members as well. She's here, so it definitely clearly couldn't have been done without ESB kind of leading the way in the beginning. So anyways, thank you.
Questions, comments? All right, thank you. Next, we have discussion.
What do you want me to, do I get to?
Motion.
Oh, I'm ready. Can I read it? Y'all, I'm so excited about this. Madam Mayor, I move that the City Council approve the resolution to adopt the Sustainability Strategic Plan.
Is there any discussion? Not. Those in favor of adopting the Sustainability Strategic Plan say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Ayes have it. Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yay.
All right, more with environmental sustainability. That's such a hard thing to say. Environmental Sustainability Board's Sustainability Station. Virginia Tagle.
It's very hard to say.
Good evening, City Council and staff and friends in the audience. I'm going to apologize for my scratchy voice. I promise I'm not contagious. If I were up to it, I wouldn't ride my bike and use that fantastic bike rack that's been lobbied for. One of my other favorite sustainability topics. One other thing I'm noticing that you have water in pitchers. Thank you for using our mountains on tap as opposed to bottled water. So first, thank you for your support of the second successful the Hendo Earthfest. On behalf of the ESB and the Waste Reduction Committee, I'm here tonight asking for your approval for the proposed sustainability demonstration station. I also want to congratulate Caitlin Gendusa on her first year as the city's sustainability manager. She's done fine and substantial work in this role, and I thank you for making the position possible. I also want to recognize all those proclamations and people honored earlier. As a city resident and taxpayer, I love that you're doing such good work and recognizing that of the people you hire. And I want to congratulate Melinda Lawrence, and I apologize if I didn't pronounce your name correctly, on your new position. I will do my best to make this concise and answer any questions and to make it interesting. So I am a retired teacher, so I had to bring visual aids. This is a sample of the city leaf compost. You could pass that around. I'm a fan of that. This is my own home compost, freshly dug out just a few minutes ago. And this one is vermicompost, which means it has worms in it, and they're kind of shy of the light, so feel free to dig around. Okay. Thank you for humoring my quirkiness. I want to tell you why we are submitting this proposal, how we will implement it, and when we hope to get started. Thank you, Caitlin. Given that we're dealing with biological process in living organisms, humans, as well as decomposers, we expect to monitor and adjust as we go. Tonight, I will reference information from the Yes in My Backyard Home Composting Guide for Local Government, published by the Institute for Local Self-Reliance. Composting at home is the most sustainable way to reduce food waste in the landfill. One study by ILSR shows that up to 50 pounds per month per household can be diverted. Annually, this can save thousands of dollars in disposal costs. With the nationwide growth in gardening, this also encourages creating a resource to improve our local food security. On a personal note, gardening is a proven contributor to physical and mental health. So why this model and why now? The Sustainability Demonstration Station, emphasizing compost education, is to be in an easily accessible, highly visible location to the community on Maple Street, where the farmers market is. City residents have asked for compost education. This meets our directive to promote, facilitate, and act as liaison to educate citizens on environmental sustainable issues. Cities like Hendersonville across the state and country have successfully introduced home composting programs. Our neighbors at the WNC Farmers Market operate a similar demo site managed by the Master Gardeners. Excuse me a minute, my voice has been a challenge. So how will the ESB launch and support this project? Members of the ESB are committed to installing the equipment, monitoring and maintaining the site, providing demos during the farmers market, and additionally as desired. We also have more than 20 new volunteers that may be interested in helping. They signed up at EarthFest. We are asking for a bit of help from Public Works to deliver mulch and help install pervious pavers. I will complete the Community Composting 101 Neighborhood Soil Rebuilders course offered by the Institute for Local Self-Reliance, and will share the info learned with the Waste Reduction Committee. I recognize that though I'm a longtime home composter, I can benefit from learning more about the science behind composting and best practices for implementing community-based programs. Once a teacher, always a student. We also have a commitment from the Blue Ridge Bicycle Club to contribute 50% of the cost of the bike rack. Christine Whitmire of the Organics Recycling Specialist with NCDEQ is helping us design the signs and brochures. And Caitlin, you can move on to the layout whenever you want to. When can we start? We are prepared to order equipment and get the site ready upon approval. I'm an optimist. We hope to provide our first demonstration at our scheduled market day on May 18th. Phase 1 will be completed with funds allocated in the current cycle. Phase 2 will be completed with funds in the next cycle. Right now for Phase 1, we've got just under $2,300, and the ESB has already allocated $2,500 toward this program. In Phase 1, we'll include 4 different types of composting units, a deck box for carbon materials, signs, and literature. In Phase 2, we want to install permeable pavers, a bike rack, and a fence. And that phase is just under $2,700 with the $500 credit from the Blue Ridge Bicycle Club. The total cost will be approximately $4,400. And in case you have any further doubts, I freshly dug this up from my garden as an example of the amazing food people can grow at home using compost. Who has questions? Anyone who want to take this home? I don't think I'm allowed to give a gift. I could give it to the audience. Concerns?
Questions? Comments?
I mean, Virginia specifically, the ESB has spent quite a bit of time working on this project and working with staff members to identify a location and figure out the best ways to do it. And they're very committed to making this happen, and they already have money in the budget that we allocated last year. So I hope that you all will support this.
Thank you.
Other comments, questions?
I have a question. Did I hear there's a fence? There would be a fence?
So the idea of the fence was to provide, there we go. This is not the current layout. This needs to be revised based on a new location, sliding down a bit on Maple Street. The reason for the fence was because there was kind of a hazardous drainage area at this previous location. But this is an area that when you do a project like this, it's nice to have demarcation and signals to people that this is an area you're entering with respect and to use as it's intended. So in a next phase, what would be ideal would be to add more raised beds and use those for pollinator beds and even food that people could take using the compost that we produced.
I see like a guide wire or something to a utility pole.
Yeah, and I apologize. My cohort that completed this for me is homesick, and we had a change in location that I found out about just today. So the new location will not have that guy wire. It'll be a rectangular block, and it'll be great. It'll be easily accessible. People going to the market will see it, and they're going to want to know what's going in.
Okay.
Earlier that shows the updated location.
So let me just mention while they're doing that, we do want to have, as I said, a bike rack. We want to have a demonstration for permeable pavers. And, oh, yeah.
There it is.
There it is. So let's see, that would be, get my directions right.
It's on the other
south side of the overpass on Maple Street.
Between the two bridges.
Yep.
Yeah. And then if you could go back to that next slide, I want to mention, I'm sorry, the one with the picture of the bin with the holes in it. Maybe it was, there we go. So speaking of worms, one of the goals for this project was to provide equipment that people could use that's more aesthetically pleasing, and perhaps they live somewhere where composting is not allowed. This worm bin is submersible in a raised bed, and no one will ever know you're putting your food scraps in there. So that's our goal. All of the items that were selected were specifically to be more aesthetically pleasing, an alternative to the wonderful bins that the county does offer, but that people may not be aware of these other types of bins to keep that food waste here and grow more food and save the city money.
Anything else?
Oh, that was a sign that I borrowed from Greensboro as a sample, and our designs are being worked on. And if we get approval, we will move forward with that.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Comments or a motion?
Madam Mayor, I move that the City Council approve the Environmental Sustainability Board's Sustainability Station.
Is there any discussion? Those in favor of approving the sustainability station, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. Ayes have it. All right. Can move ahead. Thank you. Right. Next, we have a resolution of support for the lofts at Chadwick.
Mayor Vogt, members of City Council, at your April meeting, you approved the loss at Chadwick as a project, and council directed, it is a low-income tax credit project, and City Council directed staff to develop a resolution of support to be submitted to the North Carolina Housing Finance Agency to support that tax credit application. So that is included in your packet for your information that will be submitted to North Carolina Housing Finance on behalf of the applicant.
Any questions? We've done this before for applicants for tax credits. So this is nothing unusual. Any questions or comments or a motion?
Madam Mayor, I move the City Council adopt the resolution supporting the low-income tax credit application for the lofts at Chadwick.
Is there any discussion? Those in favor of the resolution of support say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Ayes have it, and get that written up and off. Next, Community Development Block Grant Update. Speaker.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, new council member, welcome. I'm Angie Beaker, City Attorney, and I have with me Susan Frady, Executive Director for the Housing Assistance Corporation. And we wanted to come and give City Council and the citizens an update on the 7th Avenue Revitalization Project. And the first thing I just want to point out is this is a partnership, right? It is a partnership at the federal, state, and local level and nonprofit level. We have involved Housing Assistance Corp., who is a subrecipient of the grant funds and also a contributor of affordable housing. We have the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, who is a funder. We have the North Carolina Department of Commerce, who is a funder. And lastly, we have contracted with Land of Sky, who is our regional COG, Council of Governments, to help administer the grant. Okay, so the reason I called it the 7th Avenue Revitalization Project is because that's what the grant application called it. It's a very comprehensive project that involves not only grant funds, but additional funding, as we'll see. The application was submitted in August 25th, 2020. That was a week after I started. So I can say I had absolutely and can take no credit for putting that together. Susan was actually still on city staff then, right? Right at the end. And you want to say anything about your history with the project?
Yeah, I just want to say, I just want to say that my role with the city when this project began, we had a meeting down at the church on Cherry Street, and we made a lot of promises to a lot of citizens. And so I stood up and told them that I promised them that the city was going to make this project happen. So come full circle, I'm now with Housing Assistance trying to make this project happen as far as the rehab and the new houses. So I'm really just proud to say that the City Council has supported this. And we have, of course, the two new houses on Beach Street that have been constructed. I think Angie will say later in her presentation that we did make a commitment to do more houses. And we certainly are willing to do that, but we need to find property down there in order to do that. And there are still some properties that we believe we may be able to get. And we're going to talk a little bit more about the houses that we're rehabbing. And we met with Ms. Flowers today, and it is just amazing what this money in this project has done.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so the project was, as I said, part of a community development block grant. It's called their Neighborhood Revitalization Program. The grant amount was for $750,000. It's administered through the Department of Commerce Rural and Economic Development Division. It included two components as part of the grant: to construct sidewalks, and secondly, to renovate 4 homes: 620 Jonas, 702 Jonas, 647 Cherry. And as an aside, I'll say those were the 3 that were actually submitted for as part of the grant. 640 Cherry was an additional home that the city committed to rehabbing in addition to the grant. So when you're submitting for the grant, you have to talk about the neighborhood and what you're going to do for the neighborhood. So it was also submitted as part of this grant application that for this neighborhood, we had secured additional funding to do public water upgrades, public sewer upgrades, and, as Susan said, housing assistance committed to investing $1.6 million in new home construction in this area. And so 2 new homes have been constructed: 664 Beach and 674 Beach. So, so what does this mean? It means it's a lot of community investment that is being made. I'm so happy to say. First of all, the sidewalks. I wanted to show them kind of separately because on the next slide they're hard to see, but the red lines represent the existing sidewalks and the blue lines represent the proposed sidewalks. So the $500,000 that was in the grant, this will be used to fund those sidewalks. And I have my resident experts in the room that can answer any questions about these projects that you may have. The next slide just kind of shows the area as a whole and everything that's being done in this neighborhood. You can see the red dots are the homes that are being rehabbed with the money. The blue dots are the new homes that HAC has constructed. The blue lines are the new and upgraded water infrastructure. It's replacing small and smaller infrastructure. That's all I'm going to say, because if I say more than that, I'll get in trouble. And the green is the sewer infrastructure that is being upgraded. And then also you can see on there the 7th Avenue Streetscape project map. And so it really is a holistic approach to this community. So for the home rehabilitation, and I also want to say, this man right here is the man we can thank for all of this. This is David Stoneman. What's your title?
I am the Director of Housing Rehabilitation and Home Repair.
There you go. Okay. So if we have
title in lieu of salary.
So if you have any questions about the homes, David will be more than happy to answer those or share any information that you'd like about those. But just a quick overview. This is the first house, 620 Jonas. This is what the front of the house looked like before. This is what the back of the house looked like before. This is the first project that has been completed. This is what the front of the house looks like now. And this is the new deck and decking that went on the back. There's a lot more inside, just to kind of get a broad overview of everything that was done here. You know, the focus was on safety and support, structural, big ticket things, right? And so you saw the new siding, but what you couldn't see was the new insulation, new roof, the new engineered support structure under the home. You saw the back deck and front porch, new central heat and air, flooring, and some kitchen and bathroom improvements, as well as things like lead paint and asbestos removal. But the total cost for that home was $122,024. So the other 3 houses really quickly. This is 702 Jonas Street, as it looked 4 years ago when the grant was, this is taken out of the grant application. It hasn't changed much, I wouldn't think.
No,
Pretty much what it looks like today. This is the back of the home. These are the improvements that are planned for this property. Let me say, of course, this all has to be bid because it's federal funds. And these funds there are a grant, but they're a loan. They are administered, they're a loan to the property owner, and the loan gets forgiven as they live there. So they earn the equity in the house by living there. So in 8 years, if they live in the house for 8 years, it's free and clear. That's just the way this grant program is designed. So for 702 Jonas Street, you can see much the same types of repairs for an estimated cost of $164,000. 647 Cherry, this is what it looks like now. This one has a lot of improvements that need to be made. The total estimated cost is $197,000. That also includes $5,000 in the budget for relocation expenses because under the grant, we would be displacing the owner, and so we would have to provide them a place to live while the work was being done. And then lastly, 640 Cherry, and the improvements there, and the total estimated cost would be $45,000. Do y'all have any questions about the homes? Did you have something to say?
I just wanted to say one other thing. I know when you see these numbers, you think, why in the world would you not just tear it down and rebuild? Part of our conversations early on in this project at the meeting at Cherry Street was that we would try to keep these people in their homes. We promised that, and we promised not to displace people permanently. And so with the 2 Beach Street houses, one of the stories there is the lady who lives in the one at the corner there, she actually grew up on that property, and that property was sold, and she now lives in that house, a brand new house on the same property that she grew up in. So we are keeping our promises that we made to those people, and it's so important, not only building the trust in the city of Hendersonville, but also in housing assistance.
So do y'all have any questions about the homes? Okay, so to the Beach Street homes. This is the new home at 664 Beach Street. I didn't have the construction numbers, but the tax value on that home is $293,000. 674 Beach Street, the tax value on that home is $266,600. A lot of great work being done. So I want to talk to you a little bit about funding. First of all, on the home rehabilitation, we have a funding gap. The numbers are a lot higher than what we had expected them to be when the grant application was submitted. If you have specific questions about that, you can, David is prepared to answer those, but just the mere passage of time is going to result in some of those increases. So our funding gap is $205.22. So if you look at the top, the CDBG NR, that is the amount of the grant that was allocated to the rehab project. City Council committed $130,000 of its ARP funds. The expenses to date of these are the actual numbers from Mary, who's our grant administrator, $122,740. The remaining costs, now this is on the rehab, so the numbers I was giving you on the houses added together rehab and admin costs for that house. This is kind of has them broken out. But so just on the rehab part, we're short $190,681. On the administration side, the original amount allotted in the grant for administrative costs, and that's the costs to pay HAC to be the subrecipient and administer the home rehab program, and also to pay Land of Sky to help us administer the grant, do all the reporting to the federal government, keep up with all of those CDBG requirements and make sure we're meeting those. So the contracts for that were above the grant funds available. And then legal is the closing on the homes. When we do a loan, we have to actually have a closing and, put together a loan package and record a deed of trust and have a title search done and get title insurance and everything, just like you would do if you went and borrowed for improvements on your home. And so that's what those costs are. That's the attorney fee, the title insurance, and recording costs. So the best that we can determine right now, the funding gap is 205. My personal thought is to add a 10% contingency in there, because when you're dealing with these old homes, you're going to run into things that you didn't anticipate. And so that's just kind of my thoughts. But so I wanted to take a holistic look also at all the money, though, associated with this whole project. We've talked about the sidewalks, 500,000, the water that's going in. We got, it's an SRP loan for $812,000 at a really low interest rate for the water. For sewer, it's a clean water SRF loan of $1.8 million. Then we've talked about the funds and the funding shortfall that we need for the home rehab. Brian, do you want to say anything about the potential source of funds to make up the funding shortfall? Didn't just come with the problem, I've come with the solution.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. I'd also just mention too the Hendersonville Police Station construction, around $12 million investment in that neighborhood as well.
Oh, right. I didn't even include that.
Yeah, so of the 130 ARP, the 750 CDBG for the 7th Avenue revitalization, 250 of that was dedicated for the home rehabs. I don't know how much the sidewalk will cost, but if there is savings there, that might be potential reuse. I don't know if legally we can do that, or if Brent has any idea on the sidewalk construction costs in that area. But that's one opportunity, I think. Additionally, we have money that we received for the Gray Hosiery Mill project. We received a $500,000 loan from CDBG. Once that's repaid, that has to go back into neighborhood revitalization projects, so that money would be available for projects like these. Additionally, the Gray Mill project is paying about $250,000 back to the city from city funds from the sale of the property. I think right now we have around $200,000 or so that's been paid back from Gray Mill. At some point in the near future, hopefully it will be a full payback, but we do have money coming back in for these types of projects, so we would have money that we could move around to fund the remaining costs.
Okay, thank you. So I used the tax value for the contribution from housing assistance, and then the 7th Avenue Streetscape project, and all-in estimate's going to be right at $4 million. So the total community investment is $8.2 million, and so I think that's amazing. It's just amazing. And then I didn't even include the $14 million for the police department. So schedules. The water and sewer project, if you've got questions about this, Brendan, I got this from Brendan. The water and sewer project is scheduled to begin, I think that's a begin construction date, right? Not bidding, because we're almost ready to go out to bid on that, right? And that'll take about a year. The sidewalk project is scheduled for January. We're in the easement acquisition phase. We have to have a small, about a foot of permanent easement on a few properties, and then a couple feet of construction easement. So we're working on that. Daniel and Brendan are working on that together. The 7th Avenue Streetscape should be finished in November. And then we should have the housing rehabs done by the end of the year. Okay. And so lastly, I just want to thank you again to City Council for your support, your fine work. John, you've been instrumental in this. All the staff, Susan, personally, and for HAC. And just ask if you have any questions.
I have a couple comments. One, I think it's shameful that the federal government introduces these grants to people and then makes these reporting requirements so difficult that it ends up taking so much funds and money. The federal government, if they were smart, they would reduce some of these requirements so that more of the money could go to the communities that actually need it. Two, the Streetscape project I think is going to be amazing. And I just encourage the public to try to utilize and visit the businesses there as much as they can while that construction's going on. And I know a lot of people have already been doing that, and I've seen a lot of posts on social media, like make sure you're getting there. And so that's just our community being awesome the way it typically is. And I'm super excited about the houses and the rehab projects. It's amazing, and I'm so glad that the commitment that you guys made. And I know that these folks are very, very grateful, and I'm just happy that we can continue supporting it.
Anything else?
Yes, I'd like to thank you as well, because I've heard from a lot of the individuals in the community, and also said at some of the meetings, there was hesitation because, they were, and mistrust. But I believe after what we have done, you are gaining the trust. I know Ms. Flowers is exceedingly happy with hers, and Ms. Graham can't wait for you to start yours on Cherry Street. So I think you're setting an example with the community down there that the city can be trusted. You will not go back on your word, along with housing assistance. So I applaud you for that.
Okay.
Oh, one more thing.
Oh, yeah.
I want to play devil's advocate here.
Okay.
They have to live in a home for 8 years. Supposedly, after 3 years of living in a home, they have to go into a healthcare facility, or they expire. They die.
Okay, great question. So as long as they continue to own the home, then that 8 years would continue to tick off. But, so every year, they will get a statement from the city forgiving 1/8 of the loan. So if after 3 years they were to pass away, then the city could call the loan for the other 5/8 of the loan that's due. However, if the home went to another qualified family or qualified person that was, and it remained in the affordable range, the city could choose to just kind of extend that to the next occupant, so that they could continue to occupy it under those same terms and conditions.
Okay, and you have explained this to the occupants, the homeowners?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Told Ms. Flowers again this morning that in a year she should get a statement from the city for giving 1/8, and she should get one every year. So, yeah, at closing, I took a lot of time. John and I went for closing and took a lot of time to make sure she understood all that. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Just one comment, Angie, and Brian, and this is closing the loop. So there is a $205,000 funding gap. Brian suggested a couple of options there as it relates to looking at value engineering, if that's possible, or we have money that's coming in from the gray mill that council can reappropriate to this project to close that gap. So that will be bringing an amendment, a contract amendment or a budget amendment in the future as we move through the projects. It'll probably be toward the end of the last house, because that'll probably be where the greatest gap, or
It'd be sooner than.
okay. So we'll bring
pretty soon.
We'll be bringing a budget amendment back to you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks.
Anything else? All right, thank you. Okay, next we have a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute funding agreement with Pisgah Legal for homeless services.
Mayor Volt, members of City Council, at your workshop meeting, as part of our public safety report, we presented to you the concept of us working with Pisgah Legal to provide an attorney as well as a social worker. We are allocating just over $320,000. I'm reading Brian's lips. $320,000 of your former ARP money, which is now really city money at this point, to fund this project for 2 years. And we'd like for you to adopt a resolution authorizing the city attorney and I to execute an agreement when it's ready to proceed.
Any questions? A motion?
Madam Mayor, I move City Council adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a funding agreement with Pisgah Legal for homeless services.
Is there any discussion? Not. Those in favor of the resolution for a funding agreement with Pisgah Legal say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Ayes have it. Motion passes. You can go ahead and get that signed. Next, approval of a resolution authorizing city manager and city attorney to execute a purchase contract for the Scott property on Grove Street.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have a handout that I'll send down. This is part of the Lower Bud Creek restoration project. It's a piece of property that we very much wanted to acquire to complete the project. Mr. Huffman, as you know, has received, applied for and been successful in obtaining millions of dollars for this project. And so this is one of the properties that he has said that we would love to acquire. Mr. Huffman worked long and hard with Mr. Scott and has been successful in negotiating a purchase agreement for the acreage. This is the property that borders South Grove. He would retain the acreage facing South Grove. The city would purchase what is outlined in red. It's about 22 acres. We did have an appraisal done. He took the appraised value was $615,000. We had to submit that to the state for their approval. And so he has signed the agreement. The access to the property is through the green on the map. It's a 30-foot easement that would be through Substation Street, so that would be the vehicular access into the property. If you look along Mud Creek, though, there is another easement that he would be granting along Mud Creek through what he's retaining as well. And then we would have to look at the property bordering South Grove to acquire access off of South Grove. But we're working on that. But for now, the main access to the property would be through the green 30-foot easement across Lot 3, which the Scotts would also be retaining. Are there any questions? The contract was included in the agenda, and there is a resolution for you to use to approve the contract of purchase. And I think if you have any questions about it, Brent can probably answer any of those kinds of questions.
And Mike's available online if you have questions.
Okay, all right.
Any questions? All right. Discussion or a motion?
Madam Mayor, I move the City Council adopt the resolution authorizing the city manager and city attorney to execute a property purchase contract for the George Scott property on Grove Street.
Is there any discussion? Not. Those in favor of the resolution regarding purchase contract for the Scott property, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. Ayes have it. Motion carries. One more out of the way. All right, next, a review of public comment policy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So after some of the lengthy public hearings and things that we've had, Ms. Justice and I met and took a look at your public comment policy and found a few things that we thought needed to be clarified, and put forward some proposed amendments for you to consider to this policy. This was adopted, I want to say in 2020 originally. But anyway, if I could just briefly walk through those. So the first one is to 3.4. It just makes clear that the presiding officer, that would be the mayor, can impose time limitations on any speaker or presenter in order to manage the orderly and timely progression of the meeting. I mean, that's implied, but it's nice. I like to state things explicitly sometimes, because when people read this online, they'll be aware of that. Next, in 4.3, so it said before 4 minutes. Speakers will be limited to 4 minutes. The intent was up to 4 minutes, but it didn't say up to 4 minutes, so it's just a clarification that speakers in public comment will be given up to 4 minutes in the discretion of the presiding officer.
I would rather change that to 3.
Okay, all right.
And if, we can give them a little extra if necessary, but I think 3 is plenty.
Okay. Next, in 4.5, it was a little confusing because it said no digital photos or media will be accepted for general comments, but yet it referred to the security provisions for digital media. And so we just struck that and just made it clear that you can submit general written comments through the portal for general public comments on the city's website. Next, just making it clear that if we have 30 people signed up for a public hearing, you know, the presiding officer, you could do this anyway, but just making it clear that the presiding officer can establish time limits, both on the total amount of time that will be allotted to the public hearing, as well as on the individual speakers. Or in fact, Mayor, one time that we did say, okay, you guys divide up, and the four people, you get 15 minutes. Y'all decide who's going to speak. The against people, y'all decide who's going to speak. You get 15 minutes. The idea is that each position and faction needs a reasonable amount of time to be heard, but city council doesn't have to listen to 20 people say the exact same thing. And so this is just making it clear that those types of limitations can be imposed. Again, it clarifies that the written comments would be submitted through the portal for public hearing, public comments. That's what it's actually called on the portal. Sorry. And then I changed the word comments to submissions because the policy allows, and I recommend that we do keep this in the policy, up to 5 photos or a short video to be submitted in advance, so we have time to run it through, if it's a video, a security scan, and get them queued up. But sometimes the only way that you can illustrate what you're trying to say through a public hearing comment is through a visual. And if they hand it out by paper, people in the audience or people online wouldn't be able to see it. And so if it's acceptable to city council, it's legally, you don't have to allow that, but I do think it helps make the public hearing be more inclusive if you allow people to do that. We don't get very many requests for that, but it just sets out the rules if somebody wants to. 8.2, this is for people who are making a presentation. I'm sorry. So it used to say, it was kind of unclear, but like tonight, we have presentations, people who've been permitted to actually have a space on the agenda, not public comment. And so I feel like that city manager and city clerk can work with those people as to the length of their presentation without having to have that in the policy, and leave that to their discretion. Because it might take 6 or 7 slides rather than 5. 5 is just not very many, and sometimes it might warrant more slides. So that's why we took that out. And that's it. Thank you for doing that.
Okay. Questions, comments, any other suggested edits to that?
We weren't asking for any action, Madam Mayor. If you
okay.
just want to take and think about it, and
Okay.
if you want to individually, give feedback, or, we can put it back on another agenda for actual action.
Okay. Is that all right?
Would you refuse action?
Absolutely not. If you're ready, just notate the mayor's change from 4 minutes to 3 in the motion, that it would be to approve the amendments as presented, except limiting speakers to 3 minutes.
So moved.
Okay. Is there any discussion?
Can do that.
If
I
not,
can do that.
those in favor of the amended public comment policy say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Ayes have it.
Done and
And
done.
thank you for reviewing all of that. It's been a while, and we just don't think about that as policy, but that's important. All right, city manager report.
Couple things, Mayor, just your contingency report for April is in your packet for your information. as well as your cash and investment report. Staff stands by to answer questions tonight or at a future time regarding those two reports. Also remind council and the public of our budget workshop. It starts in this room at 8:30 in the morning. We promise to be done by 3 o'clock at the latest. And then also point out one project that I would encourage you, if you've not had a chance to go by and see the work that's in Sullivan Park. That is another Mike Huffman grant project where they're doing stream bank restoration, removed a lot of invasive species right adjacent to Sullivan Park there off of Ash Street. It's in Robinson Terrace. So great little project there in the middle of, but you can really get an idea of opening up that stream and helping the park and helping the residents in that area. So just point to that. So that's all I have.
All right. Thank you. City Council comments? Anything you want to bring up?
Yes, ma'am. Want to say that we had a very successful honor flight on Saturday. We had 3 World War II veterans, 6 Korean War veterans, 80 plus Vietnam War veterans, and about 5 Gold Star family members. I'm very proud to say that Chief Miller was one of our med team to help us take care of all these folks. And I'm happy to say I don't even think you had to put a Band-Aid on, did you? Which was great. And also part of our med staff, I drafted Councilwoman Hensley to go with us at the last minute when we had someone drop out, and really thankful for having both of them along to help with it and also see what it is we do. Next flight, September 28th. So keep us in your thoughts and prayers on that, and we'll do it all again. Thanks to both of you.
Anything else, anyone? No? We're through earlier than I expected.
Me too.
All right, if there is no further business,